This is RPG Help Desk Live. Thank you, everybody, for coming. This is really great. It's a Q&A panel, so like if you got questions, awesome. Get them ready in the dome. I have some backup questions in case nobody has anything to ask or say, but I really like talking with people, interacting and doing that. Who am I? I'm Jesse Galena. Any and all pronouns are good with me. I do a bunch of tabletop stuff. Oh no. Can I tighten this? I might have to hold it. I do a bunch of tabletop stuff. I started playing and running games and making games about 20 years ago. A friend hooked me up in it in college, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing ever. So I've been doing it a long time. I work for a company called Second Wind. Yeah, there it is. We do a lot of tabletop, or we do a lot of video game stuff. We have different podcasts. If you're familiar with Zero Punctuation, back on The Escapist, we are what happened when that imploded and they tried to fire a bunch of people. We all got together, whoever wasn't fired quit, and we started Second Wind. So Yahtzee of Zero Punctuation now does Fully Ramblematic, legally distinct show. Jack Packard, myself, Casey Wosu, a bunch of other really cool people. We all do a bunch of stuff over there. It's employee owned. I like saying that because it's freaking awesome. We also have a Twitch channel and that Blue Sky. And one of the main things we do that y'all might care about is Adventure Is Nigh, and that is our actual play animated tabletop RPG show. It's a bit of a hybrid of the two. It is very fun. I think it's hilarious. I think it's incredibly well done. I'm also a player in it. I play Grinderbin, who's a mushroom folk, and I also am one of the animators for it. So it is a thing we've absolutely loved doing, and was one of the things we were worried about losing when we went independent, and ended up keeping it and buying it and doing a bunch of stuff. So now we continue it. There are 3 seasons out that you can watch for free on our YouTube channel, and season 4 starts in February. So yay, I'm very excited for that. And then we do a bunch of reviews and essays and podcasts and a bunch of stuff on the channel. I think that's everything you need to know about that. Oh, there's also an audio version. If you only want to listen to stuff and just ignore all the hard work we do with animation, that's fine. There's plenty of gags, though. I do a bunch of other stuff. I have a Twitch, or not a Twitch, an itch page with some stuff on it that I had a few slides ago that I forgot to mention. Grinderbin's Mobile Market of Ridiculous Magic Items, which is a bunch of super low-level magic items you can use that all are very, not cursed. You wouldn't call them cursed, but they're very situational. So really fun. I really love items that you can give to players, and you can give them a bunch of stuff and it does not break your game. Because that is a thing where it's here's a +1 sword, or here's this and it does extra fire damage, and then your balance is off. So having something that players have to think about on how to use properly, and I can definitely use this in a cool way. And then One Page Lore Fantasy Folk is a book I wrote that is purposefully designed to look at what makes each fantasy folk cool. So your orcs and your mushroom people and your elves and your halflings, there's I think 20 some different folk in there, and specifically designed to pull away from the racial coding, stereotyping, and racist undertones that are in a lot of fantasy work, which is very unfortunate. So purposefully trying to pull that away from those. Those are both on my itch page. That's Adventure Is Nigh. I do a bunch of other stuff too. RPG Help Desk is a stream I do on the Second Wind channel, on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/secondwindgroup, Thursdays at 4:30, and basically talk to whoever is on there and get questions from the audience. It's really fun. Jack and I are also doing a little series that we started of shorts called Steal Outside the Box, which is about taking scenarios for your RPG campaign from places you don't expect. So he made one about creating a campaign based on Mr. Holland's Opus. Not something your players would expect. We're all expecting freaking Star Trek and Indiana Jones and stuff, but not that one. It's a really cool thing. And then the like Kobold, I got to be on there. Kobold Chats, I got to be on that podcast because I did a thing for Kobold Press, their Valiant, Tales of the Valiant, the Monster Vault 2. I made a monster for it. It's really cool. And I got to talk about that. So I do a bunch of stuff around the internet, and it's really fun. I said I've been DMing a long time, and like used lots of systems, talked to lots of people, played with lots of people. It's fun stuff. I freaking love tabletop RPGs. They're the best. Like, they're so good. And then that's my whole intro. So now we can just talk tabletop stuff for the rest of however long we have. Probably about 45 minutes, because that didn't take too long, which is good. I didn't want to talk about myself. I want to talk to you all. Does anyone have any questions, ideas, anything that they are curious about that you would like to ask? Yes.
So I am starting a kind of a homebrew campaign that's set, that's like using the Wild Sea playset.
The what playset?
Are you familiar with Wild Sea? RPG?
No, okay.
Basically, it's a post-apocalyptic world in which nature won, is I think the easiest way to describe it.
Okay.
And everything is like set on these like treetop, sea effectively of like these enormous trees that have all grown. Definitely worth checking out. Really cool setting, really cool ideas. I have a terminal issue with DMing where I always get too hyper-focused on the setting and the plot and this and that, and then I get to about 15 minutes before my session and I go, I don't have anything for my players to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I end up kind of just like throwing together last minute like monster encounters that are truly tangential to the plot. What is a better way to go about trying to find ways to integrate and create better, not necessarily just like combat scenarios, but better like encounters, better
I got you. So your question being, you're focusing too much on world building and then running out of time before game starts for like actual involvement. Okay, cool. Sorry, first answer is a bit of self-discipline. You got to cut yourself off. You got to go, yeah, this is really neat that I know how this political party has been growing for the last 500 years, but like, I need to stop. I have to, what is the right now?
The ADHD man doesn't like that.
Yes, and as an ADHD person, yeah, totally. I also tend to hyper-focus on stuff, and then I have to go, okay, let's bring it back. What do I actually need to focus on? I would say if you are in that mode and you are trying to, and you're like, oh no, I need to do something, use the groundwork you've already hyper-focused on as what you want to build on. So like, okay, you did focus on this political grouping of the last 500 years, and you don't know what to do. Well, what are they doing now? Like right now, not in the past 5, just right now. You have all that knowledge. You've thought about what they're doing. You've thought about all these connected things. You can make an adventure out of that. And you can pull from everything you've just done. And you can have little seeds to place, and you can do all that. And like, that way you're not just going, well, all right, start from scratch. What else? Like, yeah, think about what you've been putting together and try and make little connections, especially if you have another thing that you've worked on. All right, how are these two things related? Like, nothing exists in a vacuum on Earth. Space, fair. It's space. That's a vacuum. But here, like, we are all connected. Everything from the places we eat to the freaking stores we shop in to the people that own the apartment buildings around us. Like, there is a connection in so many things within our lives. And you, being a DM and going into all that, can either find or just be like, man, wouldn't this be cool? And just make that connection and pull that as a resource to move forward with it, rather than just trying to start from scratch. That's one thing that I would do in that scenario. Also, other methods, trying a timer method I find timers really helpful. I don't know if other people do, but it's like 15 minutes. I can write about this thing I really want to do for 15 minutes. Set a timer, go. Timer goes off. I have to change subjects. What is it that I need them to do this session? 15 minutes. I need characters to fill this area with 15 minutes. And then you know what? I was going to do this next, but while I was building characters, I thought of this. So I'm going to write that for the next 15 minutes instead. And being able to have a little bit of fluidity in your scheduling. But yeah, trying to give yourself hard limits on timers in order to go over all the things that you need. Is that helpful? Is that?
Timers especially, I think, is an interesting idea.
Yay! I'm glad. Yeah, and it's you're not alone in that problem. It is hard. I see nods. Yeah, it is. It is hard to not, because you're so excited about it. You want to share it. You want to have a deep, connected, interesting world for players to play in. So, it's not a bad thing on face value. Just got to rein it in. But yeah, really good question. So, is that satisfactory to an answer? All right, cool. Because if not, I'll try again. But yeah, all right, with that, anybody else have a question? Yes. We'll go you first.
A lot of DMs have the classic problem of their players will murder anything that looks to them funny.
Yep.
And I have the opposite problem, and every time I try to establish a villain, they will immediately think this is actually secretly the victim, and they need to help this person. And I'm sitting there no, this is the villain. Please fight them.
Do I play in your games? Because that's exactly what I do.
So I'm curious your advice of establishing clear villains when you're not trying to be subtle and secretive about it.
Oh my gosh, you have probably one of the best ways to make a villain already set, because they like that person. So betray them. That's gonna set them up. Oh no, how could this person do that? You've got your hooks in. They burn the town down. They steal all their stuff. They do whatever villainous thing you need them to do. So that is, I think, probably the easiest way in your scenario. That's one of the hardest ways not in your scenario, to get them to really like somebody and then be like, ha ha ha, I'll trick you. But you're there. You've got that. Yeah, betrayal, I think, is straightforward, one of the best ways to do that. If they are not invested in the person as they seem to be in that scenario, also make it personal. This person has done something that directly affects them, that directly affects their loved ones, that directly affects their income, that directly affects their hometown. Something that they care about that is getting harmed in some way from this person's actions. This is our way. I actually wrote a thing, because that was one of my things I wrote down. Oh, they like this person. Awesome. Cool. They like this person. We all want people to get taken care of. We all want health care. And your players are like, yeah. And the person's like, yeah. And they're like, we all got to work together for health care. And they're like, yeah. And then how they want the same result is the opposite actions. One of my favorite antagonists I got to run for players was one where everybody wanted to kind of fix the world they were in, but the method the villain was using was just the opposite method of the players with a similar end goal. So they're like a little bit of tension of oh no, we wanted the same thing, but we have very different methods of how to achieve it. So again, they like this person, maybe they know some of the stuff about them, but then they find out how they want to achieve that. And that becomes a problem. Yeah, I feel like those are, in your scenario, those are probably the best. And another quick point is just if you can do something where they can see the effects of this person's decisions that are negative. And then maybe that person's still really jovial with them, and they're like, "Oh yeah, everything's fine." It's like, no, we saw what happened because of your choices. It's like, it's okay. Like, we're all still friends here, right? Like that they really do not care about that, but that they're still like they're the same person. They're still personable. They still like them. This villain is still like trying to be friends with them, and like does not see the problem of like we just have differing views. What's the issue? I think those are all things that you could use directly there to help. Does that make sense? Is that okay? Cool. Say what?
Yeah, I was thinking of the kid with the puppy trope, but then I was like, oh, his answers are better.
But I mean, like, even within the kick puppy trope, like, I think a lot of what he's saying in terms of, making them feel the impact of something they're doing. If you have a party that is intrinsically looking to like things and take care of things, give them something weak and soft and gentle, and then have someone kick it. Like, that ultimately for that kind of a party will probably do more than directly harming them.
I think the thing in Personal is like the first villain of this campaign straight up admits to being a serial killer, and they're so like, yeah, but what if we don't?
Look.
I mean, Kira's a serial killer, but you can argue that she has some good points.
Yeah.
So I think making it personal.
Yeah, that's because look, I'm not saying I've done that, but also, it's campaigns where it's like, oh, we met the necromancer, and it was like, oh, you didn't mean to raise that army. Like, oh, okay, so now you're trying to like, oh, not do that again. Oh, well, and yeah, sure. You're like, you don't seem that bad. Like, so that. You can, if you do that, that's perfectly fine. Just like pull the rug out from under them afterwards. And yeah, if you also another way, if you want to do the here's something weak, here's something pitiful, here's something you need to protect, and again that betrayal of they get this thing up to like self-sustaining, and they're like, cool, now I'm gonna get back at the people who did this to me in a way that the party doesn't like. And like now they're a little responsible for it. And what do? They might go, yeah, that's fair. Like they screwed you over and they probably deserve it. And then you might be in the same problem you're in right now, and then you gotta do it worse. But
If you do have that specific circumstance and you run into that problem there, now you have a new villain, and it's the people who did that to the person in the first place.
also true.
I was going to say, you can always yes and the situation, let them just collect a whole bunch of friends until they find somebody that they want to turn into the villain. In the campaign that I run, I literally had a character that I never intended as the main, what eventually became one of the main big BEGs, but simply because of the huge negative reaction of the character that my party had, they became what is now essentially the BEG of my campaign.
Yeah. That's cool. That's a good scenario to be in. It's like, because then players will often feel that connection to them. Like, oh, we have to stop this. Like, that's really cool. Okay. Is that a satisfactory? Yay, thumbs up. Okay, we'll do you first and then you after.
Okay, so I'm not a DM, so my questions are more like, I want to play this.
Yeah.
Do you have any recommendations? One of them, I didn't know that I wanted to play a borrower's campaign until I found households and realized it was just racism but tiny. But I want actual borrowers where they sneak around and like are trying to stay hidden and they make crafts and stuff. Like, what would you recommend?
For like a system or like,
System.
ooh.
My DM is Anthony.
No. I professionally, I play D&D.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't run it. It's not the worst system. I think of D&D very much like D&D to tabletop video games, I feel like is Mario to video games.
I don't like Mario, that works.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is one very popular, very well-known series that everybody can look to and go, oh yeah, that. But if you only played Mario and you didn't play any other video game, you would be missing out on so much. And that is how D&D is. It is one thing, some people like, it's fine, that's good, that is just a slice of a much larger pie. and that there's so many other things that are done so well and differently and interesting that it just can't do because it is one game. And like same with Mario, like it's not bad, it's just a piece of something much larger. Okay. It depends on the way you want to go with it. There's a few like universal systems that would probably work really well. Fate is fairly simple and straightforward. Evil Hat Games, they make that. I really like Fate. I think it's a good system. If you wanted something that's a little closer to like a D&D style game, something like Savage Worlds is also a universal system. If you want to get more weird with it, I'm not really familiar with borrowers. So
Really tiny people that borrow things in your house and use them for things like, oh, I stole this toothpick and now it's a sword.
okay, so and then they go on adventures, but with this like found stuff. Okay, you could do so like some of those systems would work because then you've got like your weapon stats and your everything.
Like stealth and like ingenuity or crafting is like the two main things
A fun way to do it. This is a horror game, but it might work for this sort of scenario. If you've ever heard of Dread, the RPG, I see some nods. Yes, yeah, and it does not use dice. It uses a Jenga tower, and so the idea is that every time you want to do a move, you push a Jenga piece, but it means you are always working towards failure. At some point, and that Dread, at some point, it is going to go wrong because you're going to try and move a piece and it's going to topple over, and then that's failure. So something like that, especially when you have like, we're trying to be sneaky, we're trying to do this stuff and not be noticed, is like at some point something's going to go wrong. And there are ways you could do it like a little harder or easier, where it's like if you touch, like the hardest version is like if you touch a Jenga brick, you have to push it, even if you start pushing it and you realize it is like structural integrity to the whole thing. And you're like, well, and it falls over, and that's just how you have to do it. And then other ones where you can test it and you can do so, depending on how like strict you want to be on those rules. There's
You can do pretty heavy like retheming, but for a stealth mechanic, Blades in the Dark is pretty good.
Okay.
Thank you. I was gonna say I've never played Blades in the Dark, but it seems like it might work for you in this scenario.
Yeah, that would be more like changing the theme to fit like
Yeah.
the tiny, but like the stealth side of things.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm like, I'm looking for the mechanics, the retheming. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I played Sentinels in a fantasy world before, so it can be done.
Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, you're welcome. I think all those system-wise, depending on what you're looking for, could work. I know I'm missing one, so I might shout a system later.
Cool.
And then, do you have a system idea?
A good neutral system doesn't even use dice. It actually uses a deck of cards as your random number generator. Unbound by Grant Howitt.
Ooh.
It's you through drawing cards and whatnot can build your world, and you decide how you want the world to be. So if you wanted it to be borrowers, you could absolutely do that, and then you can assign the kind of stats and whatnot. You literally at the table decide like how you build it.
Okay.
It's meant to be a universal system. So I would recommend it. It's a very good system to use.
Cool.
Depending on how well you want the stealth to go, Fiasco could be a lot of fun.
I played Fiasco.
Oh, yeah.
I think I'm looking for like a
You want them to
6 sessions.
succeed in it sometimes.
Yes, I don't want it all to be like the cat has found you and now you're fucking. Yeah.
There's in the same vein as Fiasco, there's a game called You Have One Ability, the ability to F this up. And it is it's similar to Fiasco, very like drunk and at a convention style game. Like the rule is you say what you want to do and you roll a dice and you get a number. It's 2d10. And then the next thing that someone does, they have to get above that number or it fails. So you're just like constantly rolling, being like, if you get a high number, it's like, uh-oh, the next one's probably not going to make it. And so, yeah, say what?
It's like Roll for Shoes a little bit.
Oh, I have not played Roll for Shoes.
It's basically for any skill. If you start out, you have no skills whatsoever.
Oh.
Anything, whether it be, say, you have a pair of shoes on, or you have the ability to skate, or do a bicycle kick, whatever you want to do, you roll, and if you beat them, then the GM then you get the ability. And if you roll a 6, you get a new ability that's now 2d6 related to the thing you beat.
Oh, that's fun.
Build up skills by doing that.
That's super interesting. I have to write down roll for shoes because I want to play that.
It kind of reminds me of the dropout. What's the
Never Stop One.
Adventure Is
Yeah.
Nigh? Yeah.
Oh, and I've only played it once, so this.
Kids on bikes is what that's based on.
Yeah.
Oh, familiar. I've only played one version of this, but I know it's another system that a lot of people use and that I'm interested in playing more of. So this may or may not work, but Morkborg has a lot of different ones.
I heard that's a meat grinder.
It can be, and it also does not have to be, from what I understand. But it might be more of a meat grinder than what you're looking for.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, I'm like, I can understand there being like, oh no, we lost Jim, Pat. Like,
Yeah.
if we lost every single guy, then there would be no borrower.
Right.
Workbook has a lot of copies too. It's a very rules light, so they track how many bigger versions of it for.
Yeah. So there's a lot of different versions of it. So one of those might be a little more
Okay.
cool. All right. Is that good enough?
I have another question later, but I can wait.
All right. Cool. Well, I'll come back to you because I think you had one.
Yeah, what do you do as a GM if and when you realize that you put too much plot into your plot and now you have too many plots and it's and you're like you just got like too many things going on, like I've got a vampire, I've got like a merchant, like a corrupt merchant who controls all the trade.
Mm-hmm.
I've got planes crossing over, and it's like it's a lot of directions at once, and I've committed to all of them. Like I've already introduced all of them to the players.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering what you do if and when that happens.
So if you have too many plots going on at once and you can't all they're not all just going to converge, you have a lot of different things happening. What do you focus on? What do you go with? Is that your kind of the?
Yeah, I mean not necessarily that they can't converge, but if you're struggling to find a way to get it.
I would say what matters. There's two things. One, you have all these things happening. What are the players interested in? Are the players fascinated in this vampire and want to stop it? Are they getting tired of getting price gouging with their magic swords, with the merchant trade shenanigans? Whatever another thing is that's happening, whatever they're interested in, that's the one you're going to focus on. Because that's one of the most important things is they're invested in it. So they're going to move forward with that one. And the world moves on around them. The vampire in the castle isn't going to stop being with the evil machinations of whatever just because there's no heroes coming in to stop them right there, and they're not going to pause everything. While they're off dealing with this merchant guild problem, what is the vampire doing? And then you can have that happening. You know what's happening in the background. You can start planting those seeds while they're off doing this other thing, or having that ready when this finishes. You know, all right, perfect. Here's how I can get them to now deal with the vampire. So having too many things is great for you in the long run, but just focus on what the players want to do right now. Go towards that one. And then sprinkle in some of the other stuff so that when that resolves, either they're ready for the next thing, they've learned the secrets and the whatevers that's going to make them interested in going to that next plot point, or having that ready so when they stop and they go, well, what's going on in the world? And then there's multiple things for them to learn about. And then once again, you have all these plot points, they choose one and you focus on that, and the rest of the world can continue to move, and you can have good or bad things happen outside of what they're doing because of that, and have that affect what they're doing and how the world exists and all that jazz. Is that Yeah.
So if your players themselves are going, oh my gosh, I'm getting so confused, what we found in our table is get a cork board and some note cards. Yes, and string. Yes.
Oh, that's smart.
Yes, we were playing a very complicated Deadlands, like 16 different like,
Deadlands.
things going on. And like the DM basically said, if you don't focus on these things, they're going to just keep on happening. And we as the players were like, we need this cork board. So, but yeah, it's
I've done that behind the scenes.
yeah,
I've
it's
shown
just,
it to players and asked them.
yeah, if it's the DM thing, then yeah, that's really good. But if it's player problem, I will say cork board and string works really well.
That's a really good suggestion to, have a visual aid of what's going on. As someone with just like awful memory, I will forget information the moment after it is told to me. So having something like that as a reminder of like, oh yeah, this person is connected to this person and I saved that person's life once. So like if I need them to do this thing, I can use that and then help, and like, 'cause that's information it's not staying in my head.
It's incredibly important during mystery or detective things.
Ooh, yes.
Because it's like, oh, we'll see you in 2 weeks when we forget all the clues.
Yes.
See, this is why as a player you need to take good notes.
It would be helpful.
If I take notes, I can't pay it. I can't role play.
Yeah.
See, I take them when I'm not role playing because I take them when I'm in terrible journal, which the character would be writing later.
Like, where did I write that down in the journal?
See,
It's not there.
and that's the problem I have where I would, if I'm journaling or I'm, taking notes, I'm writing a thing down and then I write another thing down and I write another thing down. And then I'm like, didn't I write something about like, like Sir Arthur Pennyworth was a character. Have I heard that name? I don't freaking, is this in here? I don't know. It's just so many words. So like that level of, I don't have that level of organization. Corkboard, useful. I was going to add something to that, and then I forgot on the subject of bad memory. So, whoops. Say what? Oh, yes, a recap channel is great.
Which is especially useful because I have a guy I call my Dragon Master. This is D&D edition. I'm the Dungeon Master. He's the Dragon Master. He helps me like behind the scenes with the plot and stuff. He's not for the campaign. He's not in the campaign.
Ooh. That's a very helpful person to have.
It would be more helpful if he knew everything that
One other thing that I find is really good with the recap channel, or if your players take notes and you can see them publicly, is using their notes to see what things they found interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, if you say like one experience point or something to whoever fills out their recap, like that, even just one experience point, people are like, oh, here's my recap. So, yeah.
Whoever. Oh, yeah. That's a good one, too. Yeah, rotating it every week. That's really good. Whoever doesn't bring a snack is the note taker. Oh. But th- okay, well. Okay, well, the snack thing probably won't work, but the rotating, really good suggestion.
I have my players recap every time we start setting. Like, I will never tell them what happened last time. Like, hey, guys, what did we do last time? I know. You know.
Yeah. And that is really, as you were saying, a really good way to know what they're paying attention to and what they like. That is, or yes. Someone over here. Thank you. That was a really good suggestion. Is that satisfactory as an answer?
Yes.
All right, sweet. That's so good. Okay. Next question. Well, then it's back to you.
Cool. Have you ever watched the TV show The Hollow? It's a
What's the premise? I don't think so.
Okay, so I watched this years ago. Some teens are in a weird world and they are given superpowers and they don't remember how they got to this world or any of their past.
Okay.
Oh, that's the Netflix show. They're in an
Yes.
artificial reality.
Yeah, well, thanks for spoiling the end.
Oh, that's why I've heard of it.
4 years ago.
Yes.
My partner watched that show. Okay, yes, that's why I've heard of it.
Yes. So, anytime I'm like, I want to play in an RPG, and like, yes, it came out 4 or 5 years ago, and I've been obsessed with it. And I'm like, I want to play an RPG with this, but I need to make one, and everyone always slowly backs away from me whenever I say that. So, what would you recommend for like, I don't know, something like again, like something that like. You haven't watched the show, so maybe this wouldn't work. But like, I want something where it's not just this is fun and it's a go-to, but like something where it's like that mechanic here would really translate well into this mechanic.
So what is the mechanic that you're most interested in? Sort of like if you had like a game you were playing where everybody's a mech pilot, you would need a game that has both the character stats and the mech stats, and you would want those to kind of correlate but be different. So like, what is the thing that you are most interested in for this kind of setting?
The thing that pops out, I guess, is that like they all have one power that they are able to like use and like focus on.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
As like a legit, like kind of superpower styled
Legit
thing.
superpower,
Okay.
yes. And guy who saw the show too, which one of you saw it? Sorry. Hi. Since you also have seen it, what else would you use like to say like that was really cool in the show? 'Cause it's been years.
So I think probably one of the best things you can do with this is that you might need to use 2 different systems, or like in artificial reality and then out of it.
Well, they spend outside of artificial reality like 3 seconds.
But if you're worried, if you want to do interplay between the 2 worlds, you might want to use 2 different systems for that. That's one thing I will say.
Okay.
But if you're primarily focusing on the artificial reality, I would say reskinning a already like good superhero game, especially one that's like a low, like starts you off very like low level, and you get to build up over time. Something like Masks, which is a Power by the Apocalypse game, might be something that would be good.
Okay.
That was exactly what I was going to say.
Okay.
So thank you. I haven't played Mask, so good. It's a good suggestion. I was going to say, on the subject of Savage Worlds, they have a superhero campaign setting called Necessary Evil. The setting of it is all the good guys are off fighting something, and so some of the villains are like, well, I'm not as bad as this person, and like kind of have to take on some roles. But yeah, it's a really interesting setting. But you can just use it for its superpowers. Like it is just Savage Worlds, but skinned more aligned with that. Go ahead.
Savage World, since it's system agnostic, you can have like in the world like you use the superhero companion, and outside the world you find the one that fits better with that.
That's true. You can do that. Like
They
a
have powers here, they're just regular people like dead things.
Okay.
yeah, and that would mean.
Still be using the same system.
Yeah, because you could make your superpowered thing, and then you're, oh, well, this is my normal. I don't have access to lightning strike. I am just a person, but I can pilot a boat.
Right. And like okay, so and it works pretty well with just having one power.
Yes.
Like Sentinels, and that's like you need to have like.
Sentinels of the Multiverse,
Yes,
their RPG?
Yes, that one.
Okay. I love the card game. I have not played their RPG.
I hate the card game. Love the RPG.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah. That one's really cool, but
Okay.
it requires you to have like I guess you could have one power and like 7 qualities.
okay.
You make Superman in Sentinel. Like,
Oh.
You're already Superman. You're not Clark Kent becoming Superman. You're already the different.
Got it. Okay.
You could in story, like I've played some in story starting out people. The great thing about Sentinels is if you hate the idea of leveling up, you don't level up. You just like learn and grow narratively.
Oh, okay.
You go, oh, I learned a new power. Okay, make a new character. And
Okay.
it's like, so it's like, I don't care if he looks.
Yeah.
My guy to be cool, and he is So, all right, masks. And
Yeah, Necessary Evil from Savage Worlds, and then suggestion?
Which one? Like the gods one?
Yeah, just work the god stuff out of it. There's regular character stats, and then you get like a god power.
Oh, okay. I've heard of Scion, have not played it, so cool. Another one. Oh, you also have a suggestion?
Hear me out.
Okay.
Magical kitty save the day.
All right, I'm listening.
Roll with me. Okay, so in it, you are a magical kitty. Roll with me.
Okay.
You have a superpower, an ability, and a flaw. And there's 3 stats displayed with D6s. You have a physical stat, a mental stat, and then like a charisma stat. You could reskin it as these are people with a physical stat, a charisma stat, a intelligence stat, and you get boosts by like invoking your flaw, and your power can level as you do. You can spend your boons to make your power more powerful for a round or two. So
Okay.
definitely need some reskin.
Okay, cool.
What was it called again?
But it's got some cool ideas.
What was it? Magical Kitties Save the Day?
Magical kitties save the day.
Thank you, everyone.
I got one more. I got more info. Sorry, I have one more. Save the day. Cool. Another superhero game is Mutants and Masterminds, which you can get really powerful with, but you do not have to, and you can start lower. And you can be like, you pick a power, and like you can only do things that are either directly related to leveling that or directly related to like, making things that are like tangentially connected to that.
It's like the right combination of powers. Your powers are kind of reckless.
I mean, maybe. Just,
Force radio, we was talking about assistant superheroes. He said, okay, he said like sniper that does a ton of damage when you hit your target, but you put no points in accuracy, so you can't hit the broadside of the barn.
yeah, but you can do that in any game.
True.
Be like,
Something a little more crunchy, mutants and masterminds.
it's definitely more crunchy than Savage Worlds and Necessary Evil is a lot easier to read and know.
You get to roll giant handfuls of dice. Yeah.
You can. It also has a cool push mechanic of like you can push yourself to do extra and then take a penalty later for it, which is very thematic for superheroes.
Also, I think like any of like the Marvel RPGs, I really like an older one, the Marvel Universe RPG, because it uses a diceless system, which I find really cool. Yeah, the stones.
I've heard that, haven't I? Yeah.
Yeah. So I've played so many games of that were not in the Marvel Universe and just using the stat blocks from it and like the ideas. Because ultimately, kind of what you're describing with mutants, right? Like
Yeah.
younger people with a single power that you can save and know pitch.
Yeah.
So anything with that, I think, will probably, a little bit of massaging work.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Oh, I mentioned it earlier, but also Fate. You can do that with superpowers very easily. Cool. Is that enough suggestions, or should we throw more at you for it? Or
Make it a huge. Yeah, I left my notebook at home.
oh,
Yes, thank you. I'm
cool, excellent. All right. Anyone else have a question? Oh, somebody does. I believe in you. Oh, this is RPG help desk. So any RPG question you have, I'll help. That's the basic premise.
There's a lot of DMs going. Hey,
Yeah.
Actually, just to throw one more onto your recently on Kickstarter, Kids on Bikes has a superhero system that they're doing called Kids in Capes, releasing later this year. I just randomly remembered because I backed it. So yeah, there's.
And since Kids On series is pretty agnostic, it's similar between all of them. That you could do Kids on Capes for one character and then Kids on Grooming or
Yeah, it's a
Bikes
lot
with
like
another
Savage
character.
Worlds, where the systems are their system.
They're not changing
They
Mm.
bounce between them pretty simplistically.
You
So.
know, from like a 7 dice system to a 2 dice system, you're going 2 dice to 2 dice.
That's
Oh.
Really simple.
I love when systems do that. It's one of the things I really like about World of Darkness is like, oh yeah, you can play, this player wants to play a vampire and this one wants to play a mage and this one wants to play a werewolf. It's like, it's all using basically the same system, slightly different for different things, but it's like, yeah, okay. So yeah, you can mix and match, but there's little things you have to be aware of. And also some of them are just dumb overpowered compared, but it's still fun. It's a very thematic style game, so and I play with mostly people that care about the story and having fun versus like everything has to be balanced and I want to min-max to be the best. And it's like, no, we want to goof around. We want to play imagination with some base rules. This is pretty much it. Yeah. RPGs are the games of imagination you play as a kid with some ground rules to keep everybody together. Like, that's it. So.
It just stops the nuh-uh.
Well, I have an invincibility shield against everything. I moved out of the way. Right. Right. These bullets curve. Yeah, that's exactly why I love RPGs, because it's that level of imagination, but we're all grounded. So, cool. All right. Appreciate that. All right. Any other questions? Yes. Yeah.
So I have a table, of friends. Two of them are here with me.
Hey.
Calling them out a little bit with this question. So we're a table that primarily plays D&D.
Okay.
And I've been running a campaign for us for 4 years. And I love D&D. It's the tabletop that got me into tabletop. So
Yeah.
there's always going to be a little love for it in my heart. But I've recently become obsessed with wanting to learn and play as many other systems as possible. I've bought close to 30 new systems in the last year and a half, at least, maybe more.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious, what do you think is the best way to motivate your table or interest your table to play other systems when they seem a little bit reticent to do so? To be fair, these guys are trying out the other games, but
So they're not the problem,
no,
is what you're saying. Okay, good.
Say, if other people are experiencing this, what would be the best way do you think to bring people into the fold of playing things like Monster of the Week,
Mhm.
Masks, and
Mhm.
Call of Cthulhu, and all the other options out there?
The apprehension for people to not play other games personally bugs me. I'm like, but why? There's so much more. Again, the Mario thing, of just missing out on stuff. There's several ways you can do it. A more straightforward way. I think one of the things that people make it apprehensive, and that you might be able to use this knowledge to kind of help, is one, the time commitment to learn a new thing. One of the things I feel like is maliciously baked into D&D is that it is just difficult enough to learn to make you resistant to want to spend that much time learning a different thing, even though most other things do not take that long to understand. So that level of I gotta spend. It took me we played for 4 months before I felt confident in playing. So doing something, try and alleviate that, could be very helpful for getting other people on board. Another thing is a time commitment. Even if you're D&D is fine, or you're I really love D&D, to go, oh, we're going to run a new campaign in this system, and then it's do I like this? What if I don't like it? And now I'm either have to leave the group I liked because we're playing a game I don't like, or I got to suffer through this. So putting a limit on it, hey, I'm running a three session game, and that's it. That's the cutoff. Having a time limit of we're going to do this. So even if they love it, cool. They'll be excited and they'll want to do it again. And if they hate it, hey, we're done. It's cool. We can go back to something else now. So that probably very helpful. Them knowing this has a time limit. There is an expiration date on this.
What we try and do is just do one shots where someone, a new person every time tries to GM the new system. And we'll try for once to see. So far, we've got 2 systems out of that. It's slow work. It's one long call.
That's cool. Yeah. One shots are good. I tend to, if I'm trying to learn something, I usually don't learn it in one session. I like having a few sessions just because I'm slow and need more time. But yeah, doing a one shot like that and having someone else rotate and all that, also really good. Another way you can do it is within the game itself. So you're playing your D&D game and you all go to the Feywild or some random ass place, and well, things don't work like you'd expect them to here. So while you're here, this is how it works. And you give them, and you have to make your character in a different system and try and find things that are, similar to how you want to work, but that it's like, but this is different. Like things do not work the way you expect them to. And so you have like a little side adventure with familiar characters in a different place, but the same world for them to be able to learn a new system in. Another thing could be in a similar vein of like, of being able to, if you want to kind of mix it up a little bit too, in like a dream scenario where it's like, oh, we need to psychonauts into someone's head, or something like that. And also, if you want to throw it a little extra weird, have each character make someone else's character. So like it's not you. It is like, oh, this is what someone else thinks of you. And then they make your character sheet, and then you play that for like this little bit of the game. So something like that. Another thing that a friend of mine does, which I find really interesting, he loves running Mothership, which is a fun horror space RPG. And then what he'll do is he'll usually run like a 3-session campaign of Mothership. And then he'll run a game of Area X, I think it's called, which Area X is a play to lose horror RPG, where like you're going in. Have you ever read or watched Annihilation? Nope. Fantastic book. Still haven't watched the movie, but it's probably really good. It's a very strange place, and like basically nobody comes out of it. But like you got to send people in to figure out what's going on. So Area X is a game very much inspired by that, where it's a play to lose RPG. You're going in knowing you're not coming out. So he'll use X as a system for the end of the Mothership game of how does the end of your character come about? Everybody is playing that they know they will die. Mortality. Sorry, everybody. It's gonna happen. Real bummer. Sorry to bring the room down. But like that's the idea, and then playing that into the game, like you have some level of control over your character and how this is going, how their mark on this world is going to end. How does it? So something like that for, like, oh, okay, we've done the campaign and this is a thing to kind of wrap up the characters. Like, so little things like that could be really fun, I think, for, getting people into other things, but also one shots, great. Also just expressing that you really want to, like if you're DMing, like I do not think players should hold the DM hostage for a game they don't want to run. Like it takes me infinitely longer to prep a Pathfinder 2 game than it does to prep a Lexicon game, because I know how to build this and go, all right, I'm done. Cool. I did it in 30 minutes and I'm set for the rest of the session, versus Pathfinder 2 where I'm like, well, all right, I gotta keep combat interesting. So like he's gotta have these monsters. All right, so it's a challenge rating of this, and I gotta make sure all these have enough abilities that they can do interesting stuff in combat, and then it's gonna tie into this thing, and I gotta check the stats on that, and like it's just way more work. And like I, as the GM, may not have that kind of time. And so expressing like, hey, it would really help me if we did this. And if they say too bad, then maybe they can run a game and deal with it.
Throw out another suggestion, because this is how actually my group landed on playing WildC. Talk about what kind of story they want. Like, obviously, your motivation in this is you want to try a lot of different systems. That may not be their motivation, but there's a lot of interesting stories and types of games that people might be interested in that just don't fit in D&D. So, my group wanted to do a couple of different things, but like one of the ones that came up is that a couple of them are really big fans of One Piece. And so definitely that kind of like pirate, aspect to it, along with a lot of other things they came up with, when I was just like, RPG, seafaring mechanics, that was one of the things towards Wild Sea. And I looked at that and I was like, this is a really cool, interesting thing. And then I went back to them with sort of like a, elevator pitch of the game and said, this is the type of story I can tell you, and like we can tell in this game. And they were like, hell yeah, let's do it.
Excellent suggestion.
Awesome. It's very cool.
Yeah, that is really, really good advice. Solid. Is that satisfactory of... Yay!
New thoughts and ideas there that I didn't think of yet, so 100%.
Yay! That's the whole point. And getting stuff from other people. Like, I love doing these because like these panels are so much fun, and doing the RPG help desk on Twitch is really fun because it's like, oh, I get to like say things to help people because this like tabletops are my favorite things. But also, I learn a ton. Like, I learn about cool new campaigns and like ideas for something that I didn't think about, of like, oh yeah, it's a great way to do it. Like, this is a two-way street of information, which I think is fantastic. Very cooperative, which is fitting for RPGs. So if that's hooray on yay. Cool. Well then, next question. Yes. Who's Sonic in the Mario and D&D? Who was once really popular that then fell on hard times? Oh yeah, L5R. Yeah.
L5R?
Maybe L5R. That would.
Nailed it with L5R, yeah.
Legend of the Five Rings. That is one that I've. Oh shoot! Oh my gosh! I don't want to say Vampire the Masquerade because I feel like it's still pop. I know in the 90s they were like probably the top competitor with D&D, and then they got less popular. That's true.
Vampire's still in the top 5 for TTRPGs, so.
Because it's good.
It's really funny that like Vampire Masquerade is like, yeah, all of the vampire media, we inspire them. And it's like, oh, even the ones that came before you? Yes, even those.
Yeah, they time traveled.
Yeah.
They used time spheres in Mage to go back in time to influence vampire lore to be more like theirs.
It's just so funny. They list like so many different vampire things, and it's like, but that's from like the 60s. Yes,
Yeah.
That's exactly. We gave Bram Stoker.
Yeah. You know that movie Nosferatu? Named after one of our clans. Yeah. That's really funny. So yeah, I'm gonna say either the World of Darkness VTM or Legend of the Five Rings. If I'd played Legend of the Five Rings, I may actually say that one because I remember hearing a lot about it, and then yeah, I don't think I've heard anything about it for a long time.
They recently did a re-release of it, or like a 2.0 or whatever.
Ooh.
Or maybe it is coming out, but that's why it stuck in my head as like a reliable aspect.
Fair. All right. I like that question. Thanks. Was that a satisfactory answer? All right, cool. This is a good question. All right. Any other questions? Or what's the next question? I'll phrase that as there is a next one so that someone will feel pressure to raise their hand. Or I'll just talk about something that I think is super important to DMing.
Oh, wait, actually, I just
Yes.
discovered a question.
Oh, good.
As someone who also has ADHD,
Hey.
yay, and has problems making decisions, Other systems, because it's more of descriptive, like Sentinels, you should play it. It's like, oh, tell me what you want to do, roll the dice, let's see if you did it. And whereas D&D, it's like, we have 50 spells on this list, don't forget to check the other 7 lists.
You pick 7 of these 50, and that's all you get.
It's so much, and then I'm just very, it bogs me down, and then I don't pick anything, and then it's like, what did you pick for your warlock? And I said, command. I command him to explode.
You gotta read the rules of the spell too.
I am advanced, so how can you make it easier? What are your, because I still want to play warlocks.
That's fair. I feel like I am qualified to answer this question because I have a lot of the same feelings, but I love playing spellcasters. But I do get a bit of choice paralysis on like, okay, well, there's so many things, and like, I get to pick 3 of them? Like, really? Come on. Theming, I think, is probably one of the best things you can do. Is I want to play a mage. I want to play a warlock who is like just super into skeletons because that's on brand. We'll go with that. So you look at a spell, you have your spell list, your warlock spell list, and you look at it and you go, does this spell work with skeletons? Does it have a direct theme with skeletons? Would it work on skeletons? Does it help make skeletons? Like, yes or no? Make a little flow chart. If no, next spell. And just stick to the theme. You will find that there's maybe some like spell levels, like, oh, there's 1 first level spell that's worth having. And then but you get 3 new spell slots or whatever, spell spheres, I forget what they're called. Yeah, this round. So it's like, well, I guess I get a few more cantrips. And then you can go back and look at like, well, these would work for skeletons. So like, all right, I have 1 level 1 spell. Oh no, you're not the most optimized wizard. Who cares? Like, have fun. Like, and thinking about like, especially if you're in a group that's like, we don't just fight everything. Like, I play a lot of games where we befriend people. Like, if there's for Adventure Is Nigh, Jack Packard's the GM, and he has learned like, we will talk our way into and out of every situation we can because we enjoy it. Like, even Sigmar is the one who's like, all right, guys, well, we got to move this along, so I'm just going to shoot my bow. But even him, most of the time, is like, well, let's start with talking. Like, we got, like, so spells that deal with utility are also really useful. Thinking about, like, I've got Warlock, you're going to have Eldritch Blast, and you're going to do a lot of damage, and like, cool, that's your damage spell. So like, forget about damage spells. Like, what lets you, can you cast jump? Like, that's a fun utility spell. All right, muddy ground. Ooh, you can change the battlefield, make it all sticky and gross, and then people can't move around as much. Making walls, moving people, either comrades or enemies, around the battlefield. So like utility-based things. So yeah, picking a theme and then trying to stick with that theme in your spell choices, I think. And then also make little notes on like, you found 7 spells that work and you only get 5 this level. Mark those spells, because if you're ADD like me, you're gonna forget. And then when you level up and you get 3 more spells and you only find that 1 more spell that works for your theme, you've already got that information. You go back and you go, oh, these fit. Cool, they're on the spell list. And now you're not dealing with going through everything all over again. And then you have exactly what you want for your character. Mm-hmm.
These spells on the sorcerer list and these on the wizard list, would you look there, or would you be like,
No, absolutely look there. Start with the warlock.
Okay.
Like, if you're like me in your ADD-ness, you'll see 5 options and then panic. So just pick one and just go through it. And like that is it's so easy to say, it's so hard to do, because as I'm looking at the one, I'm thinking about the 4 others. I'm like, but like, well, okay, but the cleric, I mean, what if this is like a thing but like cooler, but it's like, you know, it's just go through the one, and then if you either feel compelled to or you haven't filled out your list, choose one of the other ones. For any criteria you want, go in alphabetical order, go off the coolest name, roll a die, doesn't matter. And then you go just do that one next and just look at it.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Every time I go through just maybe list of spells I like, and then just if I like too many, then like, okay, which ones I like the best? It's just like, which
Uh-huh.
I'm running for this character.
I think
Yeah.
the theme is really going to be helpful because, like, cool spells, there's like, oh no.
Yeah.
So here's another fun one. I had a friend of mine who only played Room, and we like kind of challenged them, like, try a spellcasting class, see if you like it. And what we ended up going with for them was like a wild mage sorcerer, and they bought some of those like spell cards, and then we kind of like went through and just like categorized a few. You know, so like, this is a damage spell, this is a utility spell, this is a healing spell, this is a this kind of spell. And then we said, rather than her trying to, you know, select her spells from all of her options at the start of the day, shuffle all the ones in each of those stacks. You have that number of spells per day like you would normally have. Pull one off the top. You're a wild mage. You don't know what's going to happen.
That's a good idea. That's fun. And then they know these are the spells I can cast today.
Yeah. And it's also a fun challenge because it's like, well, how do I solve this problem with this spell?
Right.
Yeah, I will say, like, I learned these spells. Yay, I have them in my brain forever. No, actually, you have to memorize them every day, like, freshly. It's stupid.
I hate those rules.
Yeah, so it was a lot of fun to like,
List every day.
Yeah.
have to think of new ways to use certain spells. I think outside the box.
That's really cool. Suggestion on it?
One thing I do for my players, especially like newcomers who might not know what spells they're going to like and what they're not, is I'll loosen the restrictions about how often they can swap out a spell. So if the book says you can swap out one spell every time you level up, I might say, yeah, that's what the book says, but as long as you're not abusing it, you can swap spells out more often. You can try, oh, I thought I'd like this spell, I don't. Can I get rid of something else?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can swap as long as you're not like abusing it to try and game the system and like breaking counters. Yeah, swap it out between sessions, swap it out all along the rest.
That's
At least that you're committing to spelling.
yeah. I feel like the lack of being able to change spells, like one spell per level kind of thing, is very much a like, this is a problem you have with people who are very familiar with the game and trying to game it, and it's a direct problem for people who don't understand or haven't played the game, and then are like, oh, what does this do? Ooh, yeah, moved 6 feet of earth. Not nearly as useful as I thought. Way more restrictions. We're in space a lot. This is not helpful. I would love to get rid of this. And it's like, yeah, but, you know, you wind up in space sometimes. It happens. All right, sweet. Still got like 10 minutes. So awesome. They opened the door, so I was like, oh no, is it time? But we're still good. Okay. Was that good, satisfactory to good suggestions too, also. All right. Next question while we still have time.
Sure, I'll go.
Yeah.
So, Christmas is been like, we all understand that we're not in a role play, we don't even bother because everyone's schedules doesn't line up.
In Christmas time, like December, yeah.
It's been like 2 months since we played.
Yeah.
And last game I ran, I completely forgot what my notes meant and where we were. So kind of just like puts it around that.
Yeah.
How do you keep games that are on pause for a while and start back up again?
So repeat that last part, sorry.
So like the games that are on pause for a long time, how do you reignite like the engine again, like get it started again?
I feel like a lot of that is going to be the question being, how do you reignite the excitement for a game when it's been on pause for a long time? Like in December, where we all have just a shoot ton of things to do and like schedules don't line up. That's hard because you can't really manufacture excitement. But But while you cannot manufacture excitement, you can share your excitement. You can, whether you're the DM or the player, be like, hey, everybody, I'm very excited about this. Like, oh, I was thinking about this thing. Oh, I remember this plot point, and like, I'm really curious how this is going to pan out. And like, so trying to replant multiples of those seeds kind of thing of being like, oh, remember this. Oh, I'm really excited about this. Oh, and helping out with that. Just expressing that you're excited. Sometimes people feel a little awkward, like, oh, should I be excited for this? Is anybody else excited? Like, you kind of giving, especially if you're the DM, I always think of the DM as like the arbiter of fun. Like, players can often only give as much to you as you are giving to them. So like, you got to come out bombastic. You got to come out full bore. And then like, they know, oh, I can match that. And they might not match that, but then they can do more than what they would do if you were just, just kind of coming at it like, hey, all right, we're going to play everybody. Okay, let's go. I'm very excited. And like, it's like, oh, this is the attitude we're going with. Okay. Like, so just being that excited can be helpful. Asking direct things about, are you a DM in this or? Okay. So multiple things you can do, but especially for being a DM, ask players direct things about their characters. Like, I'm assuming there might be a little bit of a time period pause in the game of like, oh, well, we're not picking up the like 30 seconds after we paused a month ago. Like, oh, it's been a couple weeks, it's been a month, it's been whatever. And asking like, hey, what has your character been doing? And then they can give you something and you can give them a little nugget of something like, oh, yeah, you did start that trade, the trading path with these people. And yeah, and you're getting some money from them every month when they come in, every week they come in and they give you, 6% of whatever goods they see. They haven't been around for 2 weeks. And now it's like, oh, what? But this thing that I have invested my time in is not working out. Now I need to know what's happening. So things that you can do to kind of remind them of what's happening and get them invested in something that is starting to happen or a reminder of something that did happen. I'm gonna check the time real quick because okay, we got a few minutes. A few minutes or
10 minutes over.
I am so sorry.
It's okay. People were asking questions, so I was like, I want to foster that.
We started at 2:30. I was looking at this like I started at 2. I'm sorry. Okay. Well, I'll stop now.
Down and ask questions.
Okay. Well, hey everybody. Thank you so much is that a good answer? Okay, cool. Thank you everybody for coming and for staying extra long. Shoot. Cool. Oh, thank you. Yay! Cool. Thank you. Yeah, Adventure Is Nigh is the animated actual play that I do. I'm one of many people on it. Second Wind is the company I work for. They're amazing. And then that's my personal Blue Sky, rexiconjesse.bluesky.social or whatever it is. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, and then, like I said, Thursdays, the Second Wind, twitch.tv/Second Wind group is I do RPG Help Desk live every week. Obviously not today. I'm here. But yeah, thank you so much. Y'all were awesome. Thank you for your feedback and your thoughts and everything. And I hope you enjoy MAGFest.